go down the road like that.
Oh yeah, it'll go.
Like that.
Yeah. Hey everybody, welcome back to Diesel Creek. My name's Matt. In a previous video, you guys saw me pick up some stuff that I had won at an auction. One of those items happened to be a, I'm guessing, 1970s Clark pneumatic tire forklift. Now, I bought that item completely sight unseen. I mean, I guess technically my eyes saw it at one point when I walked past it without ever giving it a second look. And then the day of the auction rolled around and it was going kind of cheap, and I thought, you know what, that forklift is kind of set up pretty good for what I want to do here. So the conundrum for me is always, you don't want some giant forklift. You don't want to be trying to use a lull or telehandler or something inside the shop here. So you kind of need a small footprint forklift to be able to sneak around between projects, snatch pallets and heavy parts and whatnot. And the use of the forklift in the shop here is going to go down greatly once I actually have my crane system in place, which that's kind of been a back burner project for a long time that I do need to get to. But in the meantime, a forklift is a great back saver. So this is a Toyota 8FG, and this has solid rubber tires on it. It also has 27,000 hours on it and still runs good. I really can't complain about the functionality of it. My biggest gripe, aside from those solid rubber tires, would be the footprint. The footprint of this forklift compared to my old Alice Chalmers is, I'd say about 1.5 feet longer, and that makes it tougher to sneak around in between vehicles and projects, like I said. It is a 5,000 pound capacity forklift, which this is the same as my Alice Chalmers, but pretty rare that you're actually picking up that much weight. Usually the items you're picking up aren't really even that heavy at all. It's just the fact that you need them to be held, or they're a little too heavy for you to be handling comfortably. So this unit works out pretty good for in here. Like I said, could be a little bit smaller, but the solid rubber tires limit you to the concrete. If I wanted to bring that forklift out here into my gravel driveway and say pick up a part or a pallet or something that's just sitting out here in the driveway, or load or unload a truck, you might make it out into the gravel. Since I've really got this hammered down now, it's packed in pretty tight. You might get out here somewhere. But the moment you cut the wheels a little bit and try to maneuver, that thing is gonna spin the tires and it's gonna sink. So I'm sure some of you in the comments are going, oh Matt, just cut some grooves in those tires. You know, you just need a little bit of traction, then you won't spin and you won't have any problems. Au contraire. The old Alice Chalmers forklift here actually had some pretty aggressive solid rubber tires on it, and they were equally as terrible in gravel. What I learned through fooling around with these solid tire forklifts is that they're actually built slightly different. A, they're a lot more dense, as in the counterweight, the actual weight of the fork truck itself is a lot heavier. To get that capacity, that 5,000 pound pick capacity, I know the Toyota for a fact weighs 8,300 pounds. This one cannot be very far off of it. It is a heavy little lug. If you look here, this whole back half is a solid cast iron counterweight. This little flange down here is 3 inches thick of solid cast counterweight. The main frame of this unit, that's got to be 1.5 inch thick plate there that this thing is fabricated out of. Everything about it is just thick and heavy, which obviously is fine if you're running on the concrete, but when you want to get into the softer terrains, that just ain't really helping you out. Also, there's things like axle oscillation that really limit you. So basically like the rear end here, where your steer tires pivot, that oscillates slightly. So if you're on a little bit of uneven ground or something, you know, you're not twisting the chassis and basically taking traction away from one wheel. On a solid tire forklift, they don't give you very much oscillation at all. So the moment you're on anything more than a slight bump, you are effectively removing traction from one of your drive wheels. Now, our beautiful little pneumatic tired Clark here that we picked up for $900 sight unseen, well, she is set up properly to be a little bit of an indoor-outdoor forklift. It's still, I wouldn't call it an all-terrain forklift. You know, I wouldn't go running through the woods with it, but I can have it in the shop, open the garage door, roll out here off of the concrete and get into this gravel, and the pneumatic tires help bite a lot better, as well as the oscillating axle in the back there allows for a lot better traction, and also the truck is not as heavy. I'll bet you this thing only weighs about 5,000 pounds, which does in turn reduce pick capacity. We have a pick capacity of 4,000 pounds here, but that is still plenty of pick capacity for me to lift most things that I use a forklift for. And having the convenience of being able to run in and out of the shop is very nice, as well as the footprint. It looks to be, I haven't measured it, but it looks to be about the same as that Toyota that we have in the shop. So after me and Sam left the auction preview that day, I kind of thought about all those things when I was looking at this in the auction listing again, and I thought, it's worth taking a little gamble on. It's about the right size, and it's set up kind of how I need it. And if you're in the used forklift market, you're probably aware these pneumatic tired units, especially the smaller ones, are kind of tougher to find. They're kind of like a niche item. Not too many people need them. Big warehouses have tons and tons of solid tire forklifts, and usually not very many pneumatic tire forklifts at all. Seems like a lot of the pneumatic tire forklifts you do see are set up as much heavier spec units, something like a 8 or 10,000 pound capacity forklift versus this little 4,000 pound. It seems to be more of a niche item. Not too many people have them. So finding one at all is a little bit tougher. Finding one for cheap, that's really tough. So I decided to take a gamble on it, even though I hadn't looked at it at all at the sale because I hadn't really considered it at the time. I went ahead and I threw some money at this, and I believe I ended up picking it up for $900. It's a little more than I wanted to spend. I was really hoping I could get out of it for about 6 or 8, but we're not too far outside of the realm of profitability, I don't think. If it works, that's a big if, because the auction description did not say anything about running. It just said forklift. When I got to the sale to pick it up, I of course tried the key and nothing happened, completely stone dead. All the other equipment in the sale that said it was a running item said as much in the listing description. This one didn't say anything about running condition, so kind of an unknown. Definitely had a good layer of dust on it, and still does. I don't think it's seen any action in quite a long time. So was it parked for a reason, or just they didn't have a use for it anymore? What's the story? I don't know, but I had to take the forks off to haul it the way we did. I brought it home, I set it here, and I have not touched it other than I opened up the battery compartment. The battery doesn't look super old, although I can't find a date code on it. So I threw the battery charger on it. It's been charging overnight. I guess it's time to dive into this thing and see if we have any juice, or I haven't even pulled a dipstick yet. Is there any oil? Is there any antifreeze? We need to answer all these questions. So let's have a little closer look at this unit. The only Clark forklift I ever ran was an old 1970s electric unit, and it's been a long time since I've run that, but I think this one's set up the same way. So basically, this is your up and down for your forks, and then this is your tilt forward and backward. These should be shifters. There's a plate down here that says as much, I think. Yeah, so it looks like we have a high and low range over here, and then your forward and reverse is over here. I wonder if that means this isn't a power shift. I hope it doesn't have an actual clutch. It's a brake. Oh no. And this is why you should look at things, kids. That seems to be an actual clutch over there, which means you can't just like bump it around. You actually have to slip the clutch and drive it like a manual, I think. I don't know, I've never seen one quite set up like this. The last small pneumatic tire forklift I had that I was hoping to have for the same reason was the little cat tow motor, and we had the same issue. It was a manual. I just don't think they're nearly as nice to use as an automatic or a power shift forklift. So this is set up for propane. You can see we have a tank holder back here and a line going for the tank. But I also saw this cap over here, and I know there's a hydraulic on the other side there by the battery. So I think this is for gasoline, which means this could be a dual fuel unit. I am not positive on that. Seems to be quite stuck. Must be, because there's a sending unit right there. I can't tell if it has like a carburetor or an evaporator style throttle body on it. You know what, we have a fuel gauge up here too, so that would only be for a gas tank. It must be set up for dual fuel. Well, that could be kind of nice. If you run out of propane, you can just switch over to gasoline. Uh-oh. Seat latch doesn't seem to be working. All right, having a little peek under the hood here. It looks like we got a little 4-cylinder. I'm assuming this is a Continental, but I don't know them well enough to guarantee that. Look at that, that's interesting. I've never seen anything like that. This would be your generator over here. So that is what charges your battery. But then it seems like there's a through shaft that goes through over here to this power steering pump maybe. That is unique. I've never seen anything like that. And we have fluid. That's a good sign. I still haven't found a dipstick yet. Oh, there it is. Looks like there might be an engine tag down there too. We got clean oil right up to the add mark, so that's good enough to try it. Last thing I want to do here is check our radiator. See if we can see anything in there. It's got moisture in there. Might just be just below the tubes. I'm gonna say it's good enough for us to just investigate and see if it's gonna be a runner or not. All right, well, I guess we're ready to go ahead and see if this battery has held any charge overnight, or if the key switch works, or if the engine turns, anything. I don't know anything about this. So I've put both of these shifters into neutral, I believe. Here goes nothing. Can I get a contact? Oh, look at that. Sweet. Turns over. Sounds pretty good. I mean, I didn't expect it to fire up. We don't have any fuel connected to it, but just looking at our battery cables, this terminal is a bit suspect. So the fact that it even held a charge and cranks over makes me very happy. Look at that. It sounds good. Sweet. This might be a really easy one, guys. Ha! It always makes me excited when something like that cranks over, when you really took a gamble. Like I said, I didn't look at this thing at all at the pre-sale. I just kind of said, throw some money at it, see what happens, and knock on wood, I usually can pick them. It's getting to be that time of day. It's time to think about what we're eating for lunch. What we got today? Ooh. You guys have heard me talk about Factor meals before, and for good reason. These things are absolutely delicious. You will not believe how good these can be until you try them for yourself. Factor meals have really changed my routine here at the shop. I know it sounds too good to be true, but these are chef-crafted, dietitian-approved, fresh, never frozen meals delivered right to your door each week. You can jump on their app. It's super convenient. You can scroll through over 35 different meals they have available each week. There's keto options, there's vegan options, there's protein plus options, and they're all delicious. I can't stress that part enough, and it seems like every time I do one of these ads, people don't believe me. Since switching to Factor, I'm saving time and money. I just pick which meals I want each week. They send them out right to my door. Lunchtime comes around, I slap one in the microwave, 2 minutes, and it's ready to eat, and it's delicious.
Chicken's nice and juicy, very tasty. Green beans are still crisp and delicious.
I'm not just saying this because they're sponsoring today's videos. As somebody that eats one of these almost every single day for one meal or another, these things are actually delicious, and you will not believe it until you try it. If you haven't tried Factor yet for yourself, now is the time. Head on over to factor75.com and use my code 50CREEK. You can get 50% off your first box with free shipping and 20% off of your next month when you use that code 50CREEK. Don't delay, your meals are just a click away. That's factor75.com, code 50CREEK. Anyways, lunch is over. Let's get back to work. I guess we're about ready to, I'm gonna grab a propane tank. We'll throw that on there and see what happens maybe. I recently found out that the aluminum forklift tanks are only a couple more dollars than the heavy steel ones like this. So if you happen to find yourself in the market, do yourself a favor. Spend the money. Get the aluminum tank. Might have to loosen up this hose and reconfigure it. It's kind of all tightened down to where I can't get it on there. I don't know that it's good or bad, but this seems to be just a hydraulic hose that they have made up to connect to the tank. I don't think propane would eat that, but I don't know. I know that that's not a typical hose for propane use. Tank is secured. Well, I'm getting excited. We are this close to potentially having a working pneumatic tired forklift. But that is a big if. We'll turn our valve on nice and slowly and check for leaks. Boy, I don't hear anything egregious. I don't hear anything at all, actually. Nice. Well, I'm getting excited. This could be interesting. All right, well, fingers crossed that I picked a winner here. Shifters are still in neutral. Can I get a contact? Well, that ain't real good. I was hoping it was just gonna pop right off, but it doesn't look like we're getting that lucky. Is there a, sometimes there's a purge button on these evaporators for the propane system. I didn't think to look for that. I don't see one. Oh, there is one. It's down here near the throttle body. I hit it a few times, see what happens. Boy, we have no signs of life. That is disappointing. I was hopeful, but it's never that easy. I guess we should check for spark. I'm gonna do that by using ether. See if it likes that. Contact. Oh! We had some ignition. Sweet. The real question is, why aren't we getting any propane? Is the regulator stuck? Is the evaporator not working right? It seemed like it took right off on that ether. I would have thought it would have picked up the propane. Contact. running. Please stay running. Oh, it actually sounded pretty good there for a second. I don't know if it just needs to purge out the lines for the propane or what the deal is here, but it was definitely running on more than ether for a second. Let's give her another go here. Contact. Look at that, no ether at all that time. We're getting better. Oh, uh-oh, that starter didn't sound good there. Yeah! I tell you what, she sounds pretty good. Is it gonna idle now? That's the question. Seems pretty good. Come on, stay running, girl, stay running. Ah. Oh, I'm excited. That went pretty good. Might just need to make some adjustments here onto our evaporator or the throttle body, and maybe it's gonna stay running for us. That was sweet. I don't think there's an oil pressure gauge though. No oil pressure gauge, so I can't read that. I'm sure it's probably good. Doesn't sound like it's knocking or anything. I guess before I start tweaking on anything, because I'm not super savvy with the propane systems, before I start tweaking on stuff, I'm gonna try to keep it running a little bit longer. Maybe try to actually see if it'll move back and forth. From just these couple little short times it's been running now, it seems like it's run better each time. So maybe we are purging air or something out of the lines. Don't know. I'm kind of impressed that battery seems like it's held a charge pretty well. So maybe it hasn't been that long ago that they were actually using this thing. I don't know. So I was gonna try to move it, which means I'd also need to really run the forks up and down, or you know, the mast at least. There's no forks on it at the moment. And then I noticed that our one lifting chain is off the pulley up there. So I need to address that before I actually do a whole lot of lifting per se with it. Probably not enough slack to just toss it on there by hand. So if I get it running, and assuming that the hydraulic system even functions, I will run it up, because it should be able to do it with just the one chain lifting. And then I'll stick that block of wood underneath the fork carriage and let it back down, which will give me slack in the chains, and I should be able to stick the other side back on. Let's try her again here. Contact. Look at that, it started without ether this time. I'm giving it a little bit of throttle. Yep, no, she's got to have some sort of issue with the regulator. We're not getting any fuel with cranking, it doesn't seem like. Let's see if the hydraulics are going to work. Oh yeah, they do. Well, that's the longest it's run yet. And the hydraulic system functioned, so we're still points ahead here. Seems like my plan for this roller chain has worked out pretty good too. Uh-oh. Maybe. Seems like it's kind of made to not be able to come off like it did. There is, the way the mast is built up here, kind of makes it so you have to loop that chain up and over. I don't know how it got out of where it is. How the heck do we fix this? How the heck did it get out of here in the first place is the real question. All right, I figured out how it must have popped off of there. If you raise the mast up independently from the boom, or from the lifting cylinder rather, the gap on this little piece of casting that retains the chain gets bigger. There we go, popped it right back on. So, I guess probably during transport or something, us jiggling it around probably did that. Should be good to go now, I think. Are you gonna start without ether? Come on, give me a contact. It was real close there. It just takes a tickle. Making a liar out of me. What is happening now? Did we flood it? Oof, first I've sat in this seat. It is snug for a feller of my stature. Not a fan of that. Oh man, we're gonna need to see about getting some more room for the legs up here. Now what? It was working so good. Did the coil like go bad on us or something? I mean, it's like we're getting nothing now. The ether should at least be popping. Explain yourself. Thank goodness. I was almost borderline into regret territory there. Look at that, guys. Seems like it's actually idling now. Now it's idling a bit high. I still haven't adjusted anything. I'm not sure if you guys can see all the water coming out of that cylinder right now. But basically, forklift cylinders like this are typically only single acting, which means there's only supposed to be hydraulic fluid on the bottom side of the piston, and then gravity just brings it back down. This thing sat outside before that auction for quite a while, and apparently the dust seal is no good on that cylinder, and it just filled up that top half of the piston with water, so we just pumped it all out of there effectively. But seems like the hydraulics do everything they're supposed to do. It tilts back all the way, it tilts back quite a bit actually. That might be another difference on rough terrain forklifts, is the forks tilt back further maybe. And this boom is also a double stage boom, so it goes up pretty far. But enough chit chat. The power steering works. Look at that. I guess it's time for the moment of truth. Is this thing actually going to drive? And how is the transmission? Do I have to have the clutch? You know, do I have to use it like a standard? Let's put it in low for now. Seems like a smart move. I think it's in low. Sure seems like it's a manual. Yeah, it seems like a manual and it doesn't want to move. Here be the problem, folks. So we're in low. It should go really easy. Oh, I might have just had a brake stuck there. Well, it moved. Going back to this whole clutch thing, though, it just makes this very unusable, much easier to get it stuck. That, very disappointing. Should have paid better attention to that. And look at that, we're already sticking ourselves. like a lawn dart. This gravel back here is very loose. Hasn't been out here long enough to really compact itself. Look at that. All the things that I said I liked about this forklift, proving me wrong in real time. I mean, even though it's stuck less than a solid tire machine would be in the same spot. But at the end of the day, I don't think that makes a difference. Stuck is stuck. Your solid tire machine wouldn't even be thinking about trying to get out of here. Oh, she might not be stuck. I might be able to bounce my way out of here. Rocket Barb. Oh, I knew that was going to happen. Come on, start. Oh, ho, ho! It restarted without ether. Ho, ho! What a hunk of junk. Oh, we might have it, might have it. Oh, we got her. All right, see, objectively, definitely better than the solid tire machine, because I'm telling you guys, the solid tire machine would have never even thought about getting itself out of there. Well, I mean, I guess I'm happy with it in the sense that it runs and functions, but I'm disappointed in the sense that I didn't pay attention and realized that it wasn't a power shift unit. I don't know, I guess I'll give it the old college try. It's still light years ahead of that Caterpillar one that we had that I didn't like. One thing that wasn't helping our cause up there in the gravel is like both of the steer tires, it's like they're delaminating. The caps are like coming off of them, so they almost kind of act like they're flat. They have air in them though. Anyways, the forks for this unit are in the bucket of that wheel loader over yonder, so let's try to go over there and get them, I guess. Oh yeah, there's definitely some wonkiness going on with these back tires, the way they're delaminating. It's like, it feels like you're riding on marshmallows in the rear. Can't hardly keep it straight. Well, with the steer tires delaminating and a lack of brakes, it's an interesting ride, but hey, it's running and driving, so I can't be too upset. Came with a decent set of forks as well. They're not all wore out. Lots of life left in them. All right, we got our forks installed. Let's go fork something up. Yeah, this whole standard thing, trying to, come on, restart, baby. Oh yeah, she's getting better every time. We got a skid. Keep it running. There we go. We got us our first pallet with this thing. So I guess it works. Let's see if we can make it around the shop and all that gravel. It's kind of a veritable minefield here right now. I've got concrete that was left over from a pour that we just spread out here, which is fine. Pretty easy to get on and off of it with anything. Yeah, this thing, yeah, walked right up on that. That's good. I mean, a solid tire forklift would have never thought about doing that. Back down in the gravel here. Feels good over here. I actually just hit this again with the roller yesterday though. So it is about as packed as it's gonna get. Seems all right. I tell you what though, those steer tires, like I said, they are making you feel really wonky in here. Let's try kicking it up into high range now, see what we got there. Oh yeah. Yeah, this is gonna get to be a handful at speed. Don't hit the contractor's trucks now. They won't like that, even if it is a Dodge. Oh goodness. Oh boy. It's like a rodeo. If you can keep it held to the rug for 8 seconds, you win. Oh boy. Yeah, let's not do any speed runs until we get some tires on this unit. Oh goodness. We are shedding even more rubber off those steer tires now. Got to run through this gravel, up onto the concrete, snatch up a pallet of cardboard boxes, and get back off without hurting anything. There's giant chunks of our steer tire laying everywhere. We lost the box, that's points off. Look at, there's a chunk of steer tire. There's a chunk of steer tire. There's another small chunk of steer tire. Oh yeah, we're just shedding. As long as we can keep the majority of the boxes, we're doing all right. Mission accomplished right there. Nailed it. Nailed it. Almost got stuck again, pulling up through that gravel there. Well, it runs and drives and functions. Definitely could use some TLC, a little bit of tough love. Let's see if it's gonna fire back up. We gotta say something about that. It does start. Heck, the battery even holds a charge apparently. The temp sensor doesn't appear to be working because it still says we're below 100. I don't know, guys. Pause this video. Let me know what you guys would do in this situation. It's not really the forklift of my dreams, that's for sure. But it does kind of fill a role a little bit. Decisions. Well, it's a rainy Wednesday morning here in November, which means it is miserable outside, it's cold, it's chilly, it's damp, that moisture cuts right through you. We're gonna work in the shop here today. So I got this Clark pulled in here and we're gonna start giving it some love. I think the first thing I wanna do is actually knock these rear tires off of there, and we'll take those down to Ferguson's and hopefully they can hook us up with some used skins for the back end. If I was gonna keep this thing, I think that we would put some new ones on it, but at this current moment, we're not in love. So I think we're gonna try to find something used. a good price point where I can kick this thing down the road and have some profit. So as I tried to show you guys when we were running it around outside, these rear tires are, I don't know what you'd call that, delaminating. The tread is just falling off. It's down to the cords, the wires are showing, and makes it pretty tough to drive, and it's kind of like you're riding around on a marshmallow. Before I went ahead and just started zapping nuts off there, I had to read this a couple times to make sure I wasn't doing something stupid. This rim, it says cast right into the ring here. It says deflate tires before removing wheel nuts. Now I'm reasonably certain that these are the lug nuts, what hold the whole wheel assembly on, and then the nuts that it's talking about are these. This should be a two-piece rim and basically just two halves of a flange bolt together, hold the tire on there. So what they don't want you to do is zap all these bolts off, and the air pressure from the tire basically just catapult that rim half right into your face. We should be able to take those lug nuts off without having that issue though. That being said, for the 2 seconds it takes to pull the valve core out of there, we can be 100% certain we're not going to take a rim to the face. And I don't really want a rim to the face. How low can you go? Boy, without any tread on them, these tires kind of look like those ones you see on like beach wagons and stuff, those big balloon tires that run on the sand. I don't think they're quite the same. Yeah, something tells me these have seen better days. Oh my goodness. All in all, this does not seem like a terrible machine. Just the transmission, man, I really can't get over that hang up with the transmission. It just makes it so much more complicated to use. I mean, yes, I can use it. It is more of a pain. But the thing is, like, if I get in a 9-line bind out here, and I need to call up the wife and say, hey, I need you to use this forklift real quick while I do something. She's never run a forklift before, let alone a standard transmission one. She could probably figure out a power shift forklift like the Toyotas. She could figure that out. That's not that hard. To put her on this thing, I lose an arm or a finger, guaranteed. Nothing against her. It's just, it's not gonna shake out well. Oh, why won't you come off of here? Come on. There we go. All right, let's take these down to Ferguson's and get some new skins. Well, we're back from the tire shop. We don't have our tires back yet. But in the meantime, while we're waiting on them, we're gonna go ahead and dive into this thing and figure out what exactly we wanna fix and don't really wanna fix. I know one thing for sure, I wanna fix this cage from where I bent it trying to unload it with Fat Alice. That didn't pan out too good. What made me feel a little bit better about the whole ordeal is that, I don't know if you guys can see, the piece that broke here is already rusty all the way across there. That's not a fresh break, so that was already cracked and broken, and they just had this fender washer holding that down on there. Clearly not gonna work when you're trying to lift it up. That washer's not gonna do diddly. Shouldn't be that big a deal though. I'll just take the broken piece off, hold it up there, weld it back in place. Maybe have to drill that hole back out, of course. Hopefully we can just pull the cage back in with come along or something and get it bolted back down. What I want to do now is just get in here and maybe check out our regulator and our fuel mixture and stuff. Figure out why we're so hard starting, because it's still, unless this thing's super hot, will not restart without a little bit of ether, and I don't like that. After I removed the seat, I noticed that this piece here is pretty well bowed out, and I know why it did that. On the bottom side of the seat, there's like a little foot that's spring-loaded, so when you lift up that seat, it like latches itself on here. Well, it's not a great design, and what it ends up doing, especially because that seat's so heavy, is pushing on this thing, like, and kind of shoving this thing outward. So especially if you didn't realize it was latched and you tried to shove the seat down, it's just gonna bend this thing out. So I'm gonna use the porta power and try to bend this thing back. It's actually bent so far right now that the latch that holds the seat up won't work. It just wants to bend this thing more. So if I push it all the way back to where it's supposed to be, it might actually hold the seat up again. Is this gonna fit? Oh yeah. Yeah, that's gonna work out nicely. Look at that, pushing that back beautifully. What the heck? Well, I think that's about as good as we're gonna get it. All right, well, I wanna get started on fixing this cage. Well, it's bent, but it's coming. All right, well, I'll just get that held up here. We'll tack it in place, grind it out, weld it in hard. All right, I went ahead and put a good bevel on these things. Should be able to get some good weld penetration like that. A little bit of preheat here will help our cause. Take that chill off of everything. Makes that first bit of weld bite that much better. Go figure, have the helmet on grind mode. Sit there and blind myself. All right, well, it might get Western here. It's working. Look at that, we're gonna draw right in there. Uh-oh, things are angry. Make no mistake, we got some pressure going on here. Things are snug. Looks like I can get the front bolt in, maybe. We're really close to getting the second bolt in there. I think I need to pull this forward now. Oh yeah, look at that, pulled nice. Okay, maybe a couple more clicks forward, maybe a click or two to the side. We're gonna have this thing dialed in. It looks good, I think we can get the bolt in. All right, we got our fresh new hardware going in. Some extra heavy washers so that we spread that load. All right, we can tighten them both down. Those are done. I just wanted to step back and let you guys have a little look at this thing before I take it all off. We got something pulling in every dang direction there is. Oh, that's great. But hey, if it's stupid and it works, it's not stupid. All right, we can let all these chains and straps loose. Well, we're back from Ferguson's with our brand used shoes here. Seems like I've been going through a ton of tire work lately. Luckily we have a good tire shop close by. There we go. Man, that looks a lot better than we had before. Those tires we had before, because they had lost so much tread, you know, like the whole cap had come off of them basically. The forklift was actually sitting down in the back end. Now we're sitting level, looks a lot better. I'm imagining it's gonna handle a heck of a lot better. All right, so I am just going around on basically rat killing, as I would call it. It will not start without ether, so it's not getting propane. So I'm no propane system expert, but I'm kind of chasing my way through this thing, trying to figure it out as I go. All right, so from my very basic understanding, this is our liquid propane line that runs down here into a pressure regulator. This unit has a vacuum sense line, which is this guy here, that comes from the intake manifold. So as you start to crank the engine over, it creates a little bit of manifold vacuum, and that should, in theory, work the regulator diaphragm in here to allow regulated liquid propane to run down this hose into our vaporizer, which is down here bolted into the throttle body. The only lines that run in or out of this vaporizer are the liquid propane in, and then there's a coolant circulation on here too, because this vaporizer will get icy because liquid propane is, you know, very cold as it's becoming a gas. It'll actually freeze up this vaporizer and it won't work. So what they do to overcome that is they run the coolant through the vaporizer, and theoretically by the time the engine's warmed up, it's not yet frozen up the regulator. You get warm coolant circulating through there, keeps that thing from freezing, and you can keep the propane flowing. So you have liquid propane in, coolant in and out on the sides, and then there's a vent on the side of the vaporizer down here. The only other thing there is a push button on the side, and the push button manually overrides the diaphragm in there, allowing propane to go into the throttle body. So through trial and error and playing around here, I have determined that it will start if you use the propane primer button. So watch, I'll crank it now and it's not going to start. Nothing. But if I go down here and push and hold this primer button, fires right up. But as soon as I let off of that primer button, kills it out. Now, I think once this thing gets good and hot and the coolant, the hot coolant is flowing through that vaporizer, it does start to allow it to work a little bit, and that's why we were able to keep it idling a little bit when we were playing with it outside after we first got it running. Again, I'm not a propane system expert by any stretch. In fact, this is probably the most I've actually sat and studied one and tried to diagnose an issue, but I don't know rightly why that would work. And it also further complicates things in my mind that this vaporizer down here looks like it's a newer unit. This one up here seems to be, the regulator looks like original. You can definitely tell it's older than the vaporizer. So the only thing I know to do when I don't know how something works is remove it and tear it apart and try to figure out what's going on in there. Before I go through that big headache of trying to pull that whole assembly off there, I want to verify that our regulator is doing its job. I think it is, because, you know, if it wasn't, we wouldn't be able to get propane by pushing that button. But I'm going to take this propane feed line off of the vaporizer and just manually put a little bit of vacuum onto this thing and see if the propane comes through this line. Okay, so there's the liquid line, and I'm just going to take the sense line, put it in my mouth, and give it a little bit of vacuum and see what happens. Oh yeah, works like a jiffy. How about that? Very little vacuum required to do that. I'm actually surprised. All right, so we've ruled out our regulator. I guess that has to leave the vaporizer. Here we go. There's the whole shebang right there. Well, I ended up just ordering a new vaporizer here. The rebuild kit for this was like $35. A complete new assembled unit ready to bolt on was like $60. So yeah, I could have saved a couple bucks, but I don't know. I've kind of been told with these things, it's just easier to replace them. We've got our new one in the mail, so we're gonna go ahead and take all these fittings out, change those all over, and then thread this guy onto this thing. Well, it was a fight, but I have that regulator, vaporizer, throttle body, whatever you want to call it, all plumbed back in there, connected up. So I should be able to just turn the propane on. And hopefully this thing's just going to fire up now. I think that had to be our problem, although I didn't find a smoking gun when I disassembled the old one. So fingers crossed that we actually did something here. Can you guys give me a contact? Oh. Ho, ho, ho! Hot diggity! I think we just needed to crank it a bit to get the air purged through the propane system. It never started or ran that nice before. Listen to this baby purr. That is always good to see. That's the most rewarding thing about doing this kind of work, is when you actually identify the problem and you fix it. For me, anyway. If I can just tickle this key and it fires right back up, I'm going to feel pretty darn good about myself. Sweet! I'm calling that fixed, guys. This thing's working great. It's idling now. I wouldn't do that before. Well, I think we are to the point here where we have a turnkey running unit ready to go to work. It's time to give her the old college try. Remember, we ran it around outside, but it was not running properly. So now that we have some new shoes on the back end and the engine seems to be running much better, I'm curious as to how she functions. Here we go. Helps if you put it in neutral, sir. Man, she just fires right up like a dream. Seems like my left front tire is a bit low, but I think we can work with that. Baby. I would like to go running around outside and see what kind of top speed it'll do, but it's kind of pouring down rain and it's very dark right now. And it's supposed to rain for the next, I don't know, 6 months. Seems like, anyway. I don't know that I ever lifted it up all the way outside so you guys can see. I don't think I can hit the ceiling with it, but it goes up pretty far. Now, definitely shy of the ceiling, but I'd call that maybe a 12-foot lift. No, more than that, 15. Pull it over here next to the garage doors for a height comparison. My doors are 14 feet tall. That seems to be roughly what the forks are up to. Maybe just shy of 14 feet. That's a pretty good lift. How often are you trying to pick up heavy things higher than that? Tell you what, the steering's pretty nice. It handles pretty well. My biggest and only really serious gripe with this machine is that it is not a power shift. I think if this was a power shift unit, I would be happy and I would keep this thing as my shop forklift. Seems like the governor could use some adjusting maybe, but functional as is. Well, there you go. A functional forklift ready to go to work for somebody. I paid $900 for it, and as I've talked about a bit in some other auction videos, I think a lot of people think I just go to these auctions and sit on this stuff, and albeit I do for a while, or some of it, you know, maybe more than I should. I should probably try to turn some more stuff over, but I turn over a lot of stuff like this thing. Paid $900 for it, you know, maybe let's call it, I don't think it was, but $1,100 with auction fees and everything all in. Let's call it $1,100 plus my time to go get it. And I think right now I can put this on the market for $5 grand, and you know, however close we get to that is still going to be way further ahead than what I got in it. So a funny thing happened to me actually at the onset of this video while I was lamenting my latest auction acquisitions. I had kind of moping to myself, you know, about discovering that forklift wasn't a power shift and it wasn't exactly what I was looking for. And I was starting to think that I would never find the exact unit that I was looking for. So I hopped on old Facebook Marketplace, and lo and behold, I found this guy. Look at what a cutie. This Clark CMP 15 is just about the exact forklift that I have been looking for. And I was able to find it for what I consider a pretty darn good deal considering the condition and the age for $3,500. Now I had to run up to Cleveland to get it, but I still think I did pretty good on this unit. This unit has just about everything on paper that I was looking for. This has cushion tires versus pneumatic tires. That's the only strike against it that I'll give, but it's a trade-off because these tires are actually solid, but they kind of work like the pneumatic tire. They do much, much better than a solid tire. You can still run this thing around outside. I already have a bit. Works fine on the gravel and stuff. You just kind of got to watch yourself that you don't spin the tires in the loose gravel or anything. This is a triple stage mast versus just the double stage mast. This one I think we figured out there by the garage door goes up about 13, 14 feet. This one here goes up 18 feet. So it is almost capable of hitting my rafters. It comes up just short because it's 18 feet 6 to the bottom of the rafters at the wall. But the main things that I was after in purchasing said unit is A, power shift, B, its smaller footprint. So this is a 3,000 pound capacity unit, which makes its total weight like 6,800 pounds, something like that. This one being a 4,000 pound unit puts its total weight at like 7,300 pounds, I think, something around there. And while the weight isn't super critical to me, unless I was hauling it, it doesn't much matter. And even 7,000 isn't really hard to haul for me. what comes with that lighter weight is the reduced footprint. So for running around in the shop here, you know, getting in close quarters, tight to maybe various projects that I have in various states of disrepair, I'd like the smallest footprint possible. And this one is actually a hair smaller than the orange Toyota that I had in here that I actually just sold. But anyways, this one is just a little bit smaller than those Toyota forklifts, and it still is nice and peppy as far as the hydraulics are very quick versus these older forklifts. The hydraulics are kind of slow on. That was a big reason that we upgraded from the Alice Chalmers forklift that I had years and years ago. The last thing that this has that I was pretty much dead set on having is side shift. So the old Clark here does not have side shift. This one does. The forks move side to side, and that is super, super convenient, especially if I'm using this thing as an impromptu crane and I'm, you know, trying to line things up like we did with those rear ends in the auto car a couple videos back. Having that ability to slide the forks side to side is pretty much a necessity. So as much as I thought this was going to be the solution to my problems at the beginning of the video, she's going down the road, and I think this one is actually going to stick around. It has a few little quirks that I think we're going to go over in a future video, but all in all, I'm very happy with this unit. I've actually been using it in here for a week or so now, and it's been the bee's knees, as they say. So I guess that wraps up this video, and that's the last you're going to see of old Clark here. If you guys liked today's video, do me a big favor, hit that thumbs up button down below the video. It really helps out the channel. Doesn't cost you guys a dime. If you'd like to help support the channel in a little more direct fashion, you can head on over to dieselcreek.com. If you're thinking about doing any holiday shopping with us, you want to get in there now sooner than later, because the closer and closer we get to the big day, the less and less we can guarantee that your packages are going to arrive on time. You've still got plenty of time as of the posting date of this video, but don't delay because it might rapidly change. Anyways, that's enough forking around for one video. I'll catch you guys on the flip side. Oh yeah. Later.